And blessed to be part of your day. Kevin Miller in the morning at KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Coming up, we'll hear from Senator Crapo. Before that, R&R joins us. R&R, good morning.
Good morning. So I'm going to add my voice to the voice of reason. You are one of the people that have stood up and stood by President Trump, and I so much respect and admire that. The fact that he built and created many buildings and many edifices before he was elected is just living proof that he can stand up and help build the wall at the border. And then my other talking point is I'm certain that your programming is probably the best I've ever heard, and the people that support you by giving advertisement are not necessarily genius, but they know quality when they hear it. So
And we're a commercial endeavor. We're always looking for more advertisers to the Kevin Miller Show, and if people want to do that, they can contact me directly.
Absolutely. So I know for a fact that that the President Trump is well endeavored and well busy keeping the border secure, and I know that you're part of that wherewithal to make it get done. Thanks for being who you are, Kevin. I guess that's all that's possible is you've got to be real. So,
well, if they'll allow us to do that, and it all comes back to having a moral compass.
True that. Love you too, brother.
Love you. Take care.
Yep. Bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Joining us now, Senator Mike Crapo. Senator, good morning.
Good morning. How are you, Kevin?
Oh, living the dream, and you?
Well, I don't know that I'll describe it that way, but we're making good progress. We're making some things fixed around here.
Well, that's great, especially when you consider all the toxic reports we're getting from the press concerning Congress not doing anything. Senator, let's talk a little bit about some of the big issues facing us, and usually we save this for the last. This is such a pet issue for you. Again, chairman of the banking committee. We've been talking about this for years. It's been ignored. The debt and the deficit. You continue to be vigilant on this, and we have to figure out how to solve this issue.
We do. And, just last night we had a vote. Unfortunately, we didn't win it, but we had a vote. We are pushing the issues to establish a firm budget that would put us in a very, very strong posture over the next 10 years. We lost that vote, but we're winning some major votes. One of the things that we're doing is, although it's not reported, is we are controlling the rate of growth of the non-entitlement spending. That's the spending that we can control by our basically our budget battles as we move through Congress. We still have to figure out a way to deal with our entitlements, but we also passed that big tax bill that we've talked about before. And although the tax bill was attacked by the left as a tax cut for the wealthy and a bill that would drive up the deficit by $1.8 trillion over 10 years, the reality is that was just false reporting in both scores. It was a tax cut for everybody and a higher percentage tax cut for those at lower income brackets. But the big deal about the deficit is that this tax cut increased the performance of our economy by about 1% so far, and all we needed to do was to get a 0.4% increase for the bill to be revenue neutral. And what I'm saying there, in too many words, is that the tax cut has generated billions, hundreds, probably hundreds, I don't know the exact number, but major amounts of deficit reduction. So we're taking some steps, but we still have to have a better and a more comprehensive plan.
What about working with the president?
I enjoy working with President Trump. He is the most open and available president that I've served with. And, he's very open. He'll return your calls and often take the call right on the spot. If I wanted to go in, and many of us do this quite regularly, go in and meet with him on an issue, he'll set up a meeting. He sets up his own meetings. He wants to hear from the senators and the congressmen about specific issues that he's working on. And, frankly, he's doing a lot. In fact, I don't agree with every single thing he's done, But he's doing a lot of really good things. He's helping to reduce the deficit by also reducing the regulatory burden. The regulatory burdens in the United States are getting right-sized. And he's also, as you know, finally engaging with China and Mexico and Canada and other nations on trade, where we for 2 or 3 decades now have allowed ourselves to get in very bad posture in trade agreements. And the issue, the list goes on. But the point is, he's helping us and working with us for the right kinds of reforms and new directions in our government.
Senator Crapo joining us. Kevin Millen in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Senator, obviously a big issue is infrastructure and whether or not we're going to get anything passed this summer. I mean, you're a veteran of Washington, D.C. You're on the big committees. You're chairing one of the most influential. What's the temperature of getting infrastructure done? And do you believe that come September and October, it's going to be the usual suspects again with the wrangling over extending the continuing resolution?
Well, I do believe that with regard to a continuing resolution as to the operation of government, we're likely to get into another one of those fights because, we have a split Congress now, and Nancy Pelosi and her team are going to be demanding that we blow out the budgets again. But when it comes to infrastructure, that's going to be dealt with on a separate line, on a separate track. It will require spending, but it'll be spending entirely outside of our traditional budgeting, and we'll hopefully have control over that. The biggest problem is figuring out how to pay for the infrastructure, and we do have to do that. There is bipartisan agreement that we need major infrastructure investment in the United States, which will boost our economy and will give us some ways to generate revenue for the infrastructure. But I believe the odds in this Congress on a major bill like that, you got to realize that the odds are difficult. But because we do have bipartisan agreement and because we can work together to insist on a funding mechanism or multiple funding mechanisms that will not generate greater debt, I'm hopeful that we can get something done. I don't know that I could put odds on it for you, though.
Well, and Senator, what a lot of folks know, but if they're new to the area, they don't know about you, is when you come home, you work harder than you do in D.C. You're traveling the entire state, and I'm sure you've been hit with this. It's, we call it congestion here in the Treasure Valley. You and I used to laugh about this years ago, but the idea of, getting some infrastructure that could help alleviate some of the burden that's going on here because Idaho is just growing so much.
That's true. I mean, roads and bridges are probably the biggest part of what we mean when we say infrastructure, and we definitely need it. It's also something where the states are willing to step up and participate. That's one way we can get the adequate funding for it. There's also a lot of discussion about doing what are called public-private partnerships, but basically bonding or actually going into projects where the private sector money comes in to build the infrastructure. And, there's always issues with each one of those options, but we're looking at all of them. And you're right, we've got to address the roads and bridges in this nation. They are critical, not just because of the congestion for moving people to and from work, but that's a huge backbone of our transportation system for our economy, and we must do it. It's not just that, though. I mean, we're looking at the need for major broadband build-out in our rural communities and healthcare and water system infrastructure. All kinds of advancements need to happen for us to gain the improvements in our economy and gain the advances in many parts of our economy, but particularly our rural communities as well.
Senator, recently there's been a report concerning the care of elder care within the nation. A long list of troubled nursing homes revealed by the senators. Nearly 400 nursing home facilities nationwide had a persistent record of poor care. We've got some of those here in the state of Idaho. Constituent services is your number one priority. What about the taking care of seniors here in the Gem State and across the country?
This is a very important issue because I don't think anybody would disagree that we've got to be sure that those who are in elder care in America are not abused or even just not given the kinds of quality treatment that they should have. And we can accomplish that. That's something we can do. This is an issue that we are very aware of. The committees that I don't sit on the committees that have jurisdiction on this, but except on the Finance Committee, which has some of the Medicaid and Medicare portions. So I do sit on those committees. And we are looking at it very carefully. We're very aware of this report. We've been aware of the issue moving along. And we want to implement this with the appropriate type of oversight, not only from the committees, but from the regulatory agencies that necessarily solves this problem, but doesn't do it in a way that's the typical government way of making it more difficult for seniors to get access to health care. So we're trying to find that solution, and I believe we can. This is one that we can solve.
Thanks, Senator. I got a couple more for you. I know you got to run, but, an easy one here for you, I suppose, this crisis on the border, and then we're going to get you out with health care, but the crisis on the border continues. What can be done?
Well, first of all, I think that we're finally past what was an unbelievable initial hurdle, and that is there was just an unexpected and, to me, inexplicable refusal for a long time in many parts of the country to admit that there's a problem at the border. I think that now it's become so bad that we don't have to fight that issue anymore, and now we're arguing over the solution, and it gets right back in to the kinds of debates that we've been having over immigration for years, and that is there's one side that wants to have wide open borders, sanctuary cities and states, and provide citizenship to those who want to come to our country, whether they follow the law or not. And there are those who want to have strong border enforcement and stop the illegal entry into our country and provide for a proper and smooth system of legal immigration to help to feed our economies with strong workers. And that's the real rub right now that we're trying to face. Right now, it's the border enforcement part that is where most of the conflict is. And as you know, President Trump is now talking about putting sanctions on Mexico for facilitating all of the illegal movement toward our border, or at least not stopping it in its own country. And we're in some pretty high-level conflict there. At the same time, we're trying to get the resolution of the fixes to NAFTA that the president negotiated with Mexico. So this gets very complicated. But in the end, I think that we must stand firm that America is a place where it is the rule of law we must protect, that those who illegally enter the country should not be given benefits towards citizenship for illegally breaking our laws, and that we should work hard to establish a smoother, more workable immigration system. And I think most Idahoans agree with that. And at this point, border enforcement is a key part of that.
Indeed. Finally, you ever get a chuckle out of your fellow senators, not your fellow Democrats? That's a big distinction, sir. Here on KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Senator Mike Crapo joining us, Kevin Miller in the morning. However, I mean, you ever get a chuckle when you see these folks saying, we're going to get rid of health care for all. You can keep your doctor. Never mind, back to you in the budget. We can't afford this medical mess that has become our health care system.
No, I mean, they call it Medicare for all. The reality is it's medical care for none because it will literally bankrupt America for two reasons. One, it puts it essentially removes the need for health care insurance and says, don't worry, the government will pick up everything. And two, it does it all in a government program, which we've already seen is not going to be efficient and is going to result in the same kinds of problems you just raised earlier with elder care and so forth. So many of my colleagues on the other side have been very cautious not to endorse this. But the call for Medicare for all has been picked up very, very loudly on, I guess what I would say is the more liberal element in our country. And many of those 15 or 20 Democrats who are running for president, they're starting to come over to saying that. I think that they're starting to move that direction because they see such a big part of their base in that direction. But I don't even think that the majority of the Democratic base really believes that it would be a good move for us to completely socialize medicine in the United States.
Senator, we always appreciate you. Thank you for swinging in this morning, and safe travels on the trail.
Thank you, Kevin. I enjoyed the visit.
Thank you. Senator Mike Crapo joining us. Kevin Miller in the morning. Coming up next, your thoughts concerning what the senator talked about concerning health care, the border, and, of course, Medicare, Medicaid for all. Are you down with that? I'd love to hear from you next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Blessed to be a part of your morning. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Phone numbers 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Taking your calls about the issues that matter to you, and we go to the phones. We're joined by Liberal Steve on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Buenos dias, America. Miller. What are we going to do with Miller?
It's the 80s. We ain't down with the ladies. It's 2010. We're down with Kevin Miller and the men.
This is 2019. Miller's trying to be keen. Come on, you got Liberty Linda calling in saying you got the best show in the whole wide world. You got Ray, who got it all wrong yesterday with the weed thing. And then you got Crapo. Why didn't you ask him why he signed okay on the hemp bill to go ahead and grow it? You never ask questions that are important to Americans. If you want to keep this show, you're going to have to get with the normal guy like me and all the other libs out here that are making the world happen. And why don't they have a live and let live parade?
I don't really think that the libs are down with what I'm cooking.
What's with us? You guys are always, your show and people out there are always trying to bash people's lifestyle. The LGBT community want to have a parade and shine some lights. Big deal. And it's not all about Boise. Boise's just the capital. That's where things happen.
Well, that's where the week is and the parade is. You don't have that in Caldwell. You don't have that in Nampa. You don't have that in Meridian.
And Wilder.
You don't have it in Notice.
Or Homedale.
So if you weren't listening earlier, we asked the question. I made the statement. In my opinion, Pride Week is exclusionary if you're not down with the pride.
It should
if you're not prideful, but doesn't that go against the whole message of being tolerant? Shouldn't we be tolerant of people we disagree with?
Well, yeah, we should be tolerant. But if they disagree, we've put them in the closet for so long, and chemically, the balance they have in their DNA and thing, they're different from I don't know about you, but they're different from me. But that doesn't make them bad people.
They're different according to who? And what scientific journal are you quoting?
You bring in the biblical stuff all the time. What Bible are you guys quoting? That's what I want to know. What word of God are you quoting?
Well, I think it's a legitimate question. If you are a person that disagrees with the flags flying, that'll be flying till the 4th of July, and you wonder, well, where's my week? Where's my this? Aren't we excluding a bunch of people that, let's just say for the sake of argument, aren't prideful?
Well, why don't you form something? Why don't you form a Kevin Miller, Heterosexuals of America Unite?
But then that would be labeled intolerant.
Well, so what?
That's not good for business.
You don't want to do what you believe in?
That's not good
because somebody labels it intolerant?
That's not good for business.
I think you guys are just a bunch of meanies, bullies. And you pick on people that were in the closet forever, and they finally get a chance to come out and be God's children, who they are, and you got a bunch of, I don't know.
I think you're appearing to be intolerant. I prefer this liberal, Steve.
This ain't the 80s. We ain't down with the ladies. It's 2010. We're down with Kevin Miller and the men.
A much younger liberal, Steve.
Well, at least we ain't homophobic.
Wow.
Anyway, live and let live. And, yeah, if you want to keep this show going, you're going to have to get on board with people like me and all the other libs out there because, you'll get blackballed. You got to be careful, especially going up against the mayor. Be careful. I'm warning people out there. If you want to keep things going, keep it for everybody, not just the far-right Christians.
Boy, that sounds like a threat.
Well, it's not a threat. I'm just saying things are changing.
Well, you are the ambassador of the liberals.
Go enjoy your beer and ride your ATV and watch sports. We'll run the country.
Mr. Bujek, you've been charged with multiple felonies. You've pled guilty to failure to pay child support. Why should voters trust you?
When it comes to my history, and I have to admit, Rocky, I'm surprised that I get the questions about scandal with Governor Otter standing next to me here.
Let the good times roll. Kevin Miller, Traffic and Weather Together, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dave. And I'm Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, 107.5 FM, 580 AM. Let's find out what's happening in your world. Good morning, Maggie. And don't forget, another state moves towards legalizing medical marijuana. You can check out that story now on KIDOTalkRadio.com. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Kevin Miller in the morning. Phone number's here, 580-5436-580-KIDO. Don't forget, a couple things going on very soon. Boise Music Festival just around the corner. And the Treasure Valley God and Country Show right after that. We're part of both of them. Can't wait to just talk more about faith, family, and freedom, and, of course, some outstanding entertainment coming up. June is a great month to be here in the Treasure Valley. Of course, the Boise Music Festival, that will be the 22nd, and God and Country will be the 26th. Let's go to Fox News Radio, exclusively on KIDO Talk Radio. It's Tanya J. Powers, good morning.
Good morning.
So Apple is changing a few things. How does that impact us?
Well, if you use iTunes, if you're an Apple user, and you have iTunes, which is how most of us, get our music and things like that, they're phasing that app out. They're going to replace it with 3 separate apps. These should already be familiar to people who, if you have an Apple product like an iPhone or something, you've already seen this: Apple Music, Apple TV, and Apple Podcasts. The iTunes Store is not completely going away. It will still exist on the iOS. It will also continue to exist on Macs. It'll be in the Finder sidebar section. A couple of other things you'll probably notice is you'll have an option for dark mode on your iPhone, your iPad, and your iPod Touch. That is coming in the new operating system. And what that means is you'll be able to reverse, instead of having a white background with dark text, like we usually see when something is displayed on your phone, you can make it a dark background with light text, which is some people say it's a lot easier on the eyes that way, especially if you're in a dimmer environment and it's harder to see. It kind of is pretty stark. Using the dark background it sometimes can help. Apple Maps are going to get better. They have rebuilt the app from the ground up. They are putting new features in it. One of those is interactive Street View, which is kind of like Google's Street View map. This is called Look Around. That's the Apple one. They have also introduced a new desktop. It is the new Mac Pro for the first time since 2013. That is the first professional Mac one. It's kind of being known as the cheese grater because that's sort of what it looks like. If you picture a regular computer tower, and it's silver with holes on the ends, and then you have handles on top. That's why they call it that.
Well, you go back to the whole thing Apple, and I guess the Mac desktop is going to retail at $5,000, $6,000, and an additional $1,000. Right, an additional $1,000 for the super duper package. And Apple believes there's quite a market for this, and I know a lot of Apple people have been waiting for this big desktop. Usually, though, the current model goes for about $2,100, all souped up, maybe $2,500. That's quite a leap to go from $2,500 to $6,000.
It is. I mean, but again, this is a Mac Pro, so it's going to have a lot of bells and whistles that I guess the other ones won't have. It's also got a huge memory system, 1.5 terabytes. Which is pretty large. If you are an Apple Watch user, then you know how frustrating it can sometimes seem, the apps that are available for Apple Watch but don't quite bring a whole lot to the Apple Watch. I have one, and it annoys me to no end to go, oh, there's an app for that I can use on my watch. And then it's just kind of this pared-down version of something that doesn't really do much. They're going to have their own app store for the watch. So it's going to have its own things that are specifically, geared more toward using it on a very, small screen like the watch. One of those is going to be for voice memos. You're just going to use the recording audio that you'll be able to do. It'll also use that built-in microphone. The noise app they're going to have for this is going to measure environmental sound. It'll tell you if things are too loud and they will hurt your hearing. So they'll measure the decibels with this thing too. It's kind of an interesting little idea for that.
Well, I'm glad you're on it with the app. You're all app over it.
Yes.
Tanya J. Powers, we always enjoy you. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure, thanks.
Remember, Fox News Radio exclusively here on KIDO Talk Radio. Tom in Boise. Tom, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Hey, good morning, Kevin, and thank you for what you do. And despite that other caller, do exactly what you're doing. Keep defending us from all the crazy libs out there. And I just want to say that, I appreciate the stance that they're taking with the Capitol building. I don't think it should be used as a projection screen. And you can only imagine that if it's okay to project any image you want and use the Capitol building as a projector screen, then there's a lot of groups out there that would love to project all kinds of different types of images that would be even considered inappropriate. So I'm with that stance that we shouldn't use the Capitol building as a projector.
Well, that's a very good point, Tom, when you're thinking about it. The Capitol, the state government has said, I'm sorry, we're not going to allow you to do this. We're not going to host you anymore. And then you have the Priders saying, we don't care. You're not the boss of us. We're going to do it anyway.
Correct. So imagine any other group that you wouldn't appreciate, citizens wouldn't appreciate a symbol such as the Capitol being used as a projection screen to put different types of images up there that nobody would agree with or very few would agree with, of course. So I agree. And just once again, thank you for what you do, Kevin.
Hey, Tom, before you go, I can't let you out without re-asking this question. As someone who tells the truth, do you believe that the city embracing the Pride Week, you've got the news people embracing the Pride Week, what message does that say to people outside of that community? Is that exclusionary?
I think so. There's a lot of groups with a lot of different points of view, and it would be great if, what would we say if we were going to project AR-15s on our Capitol building, or say, we wholly embrace the NRA. Hey, I'm an NRA person, but I don't want to force firearms on somebody that doesn't appreciate them, doesn't use them in the proper format. To each his own. I'm more libertarian. I just don't want people pushing their particular sexuality on me or their beliefs. I think we can all get along and we can find a common place, and that's what this kind of commonwealth is for. It's take care of all the people, not necessarily project one particular person's point of view that other people might not agree with. That's it. I mean, I don't hate any particular person. I just want to get along, and I think the Capitol's for all the people. So let's just keep it that way and keep on with our lives.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your time, Kevin.
Thank you, Tom, calling in. All right, the man that has been to more gay pride parades than just about anybody, Pro-Life joins us with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. So are you going down to hang out with the Priders?
Yeah, I am. I'll be down there, and probably Arvel will be. There's just two of us usually, but I'll have a sign that says, be thankful your mother was not gay. And we also have some good signs that say, nobody's born gay. Now, if you really love those people, and I do, and Arvel does, and other people do, then you go there and quietly tell them, sorry, I had to clear my throat there, but anyway, you tell them that we love you and you're doing the wrong thing. God doesn't want you to do this. If you don't believe in God, this is against nature. I mean, you can't reproduce with homosexual behavior, and you can't have a good family. It's just obviously a false idea. And so maybe if we can get one person to change their mind, it's all worth it. And
well, those are provocative statements.
No, they're not. They're just obvious.
They're provocative statements. What's the reaction to the people that are dressed in the rainbow, the Skittles, when you show them your signs, you and Arvell?
Well, they usually say something back to us. Now, like a kind of a really nice-looking young, I'm assuming she was a lesbian girl. She jumped off of a float and came over and gave me a hug last time.
You say you were hugged by a lesbian.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I love her as she's like my daughter, my sister or something. And we have to really tell those people that they're not born gay. If they're gay, that's not God causing them to be that way.
I think they would disagree with you.
Yeah, but there's another answer to it.
Before we get to the other answer, let's try to stay focused on the question here.
Yeah.
And for people just tuning in at KIDO Talk Radio, isn't this pride thing, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, but the city keeping the flags up for a month, the American flags are up for maybe a week, if that, in the city of Boise.
Yeah, well, anybody...
but I mean, isn't this exclusionary if you are a person that says, you know, you can do what you want, but I'm not down with marching on the streets? I mean, you're not going to have a bunch of families having traditional American Family Week.
No, and maybe we should, but see...
But the problem is, doesn't that message send that if you don't agree with us, we're excluding you? You're not part of our club, like you're not part of the Mickey Mouse Club.
Well, I mean, what the city of Boise needs to do is have straight month in July and you know, put up flags for that and have equal time. But they're just politicians. They're just wimpy.
Yeah, but let's take it to a greater level here. And by the way, if you want to join the conversation, 580-5436, 580-KIDO, taking it to a greater level than just the grounding level. But if you're like when you have a parade celebrating an ethnicity, if you're not a part of that ethnicity, does that mean you're not allowed to celebrate? You're not a part of that? But, you know, I can't really compare that because one is a lifestyle, one is a behavior, one is, you know, ethnic, one is your race, creed, or color.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can't choose your race, creed, or color. Well, your creed you can. I mean, we have free will. We can choose what we believe.
Right.
But
I'm just saying that, and this won't be covered by anybody but us, that to me, regardless of what you think about whether you're, you know, as Liberal Steve says, let me see, do I have this here?
This ain't the 80s. We ain't down with the ladies. It's 2010. We're down with Kevin Miller and the men.
Hard to believe that's 9 years old, but regardless of whether you agree with anybody on the issue, the greater argument is this an endorsement of one group over another by the city of Boise?
Yeah, well, of course it is.
Well, you're answering the question.
Yeah. And you know something? You can go down to the parade and you'll see Wells Fargo Bank, you'll see Albertsons, you'll see a bunch of businesses, and guess what? I don't patronize those businesses if they're going to promote the gay pride.
Well, that is your right, but that is fascinating that you have businesses that will wholeheartedly do that, yet they're the same ones that will go after the conservatives for speaking about pro-America and traditional values. It's fascinating.
Well,
disturbing, yet fascinating.
So probably the greatest desire of people are to get along with other people. And so if there's a bunch of, it doesn't matter what it is, that's how people determine their politics, their religion, their sexuality, everything, is to get along with other people. And you can't do that. You have to be independent. You have to determine with your conscience what's right and then follow that.
Well, just remember they'll be singing I Am Every Woman and It's Raining Men. Now, if that's a stereotypical slight, I apologize. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Coming up, why the state of Idaho is the most tolerant in the nation. First, we go to Mark in Eagle with Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Mark.
Good morning, Kevin. I'm going to one-up the guy who mentioned about projecting images of guns, and then one for pro-life. You should love this. I think what needs to be done is the churches in the valley here all get together and the anti-abortion get-together, and I think what they need to do is project pictures of the apostles, 12 apostles, and then finish it off with the face of Jesus on the Capitol building, and then show some aborted fetuses. I know this sounds sick and extreme, but I'm sorry, the LGBT group, that's an extreme in their own mindset. So what's wrong with that? What do you think about that, Kevin?
Personally, I think that if the state says don't post something on the state capitol, you don't do it.
But they've been allowed to in the past. That's my problem.
Well, but the state got around it by saying we're not going to allow anyone to do it. Now, I don't know.
States that do.
Well, but the state, again, shrewdly doesn't want to get into this. So, and I don't know. The state says they were overwhelmed with the number. Is it me? I don't see the only time I see the Capitol lit up is when we have the rainbow lighting it up.
Exactly.
Right. But my
or the Christmas tree.
Right. My contention, Mark, is if the state says don't do it, then who are we to disagree with the state? And that's civil disobedience. You could argue that it's, desecrating state property because they said don't do it. Well, it's a beautiful symbol. Well, that's your opinion.
But Kevin, can you imagine right after all the years before that this was allowed to happen on the state capitol, if you did have the religious group say we're going to project the faces of, again, the 12 apostles and Jesus Christ, and then watch to see if there was a backlash to that. I would have loved to have seen it because there would have been a backlash by the anti-religious, anti-American people out there, the libs, the far lefties out there, who would tell you that wasn't right, but it's okay for the LGBT group to do that. I'll let you go on that, so you have a good day.
Fair enough. Nobody really wants to engage in the question here. And finally, again, at 580-580-KIDO, and it's not whether you agree with the lifestyle or not. The broader question is that when you have the largest Pride Week ever, well, first of all, that dispels the argument that the state of Idaho is intolerant. Can't be intolerant and have the largest Pride thing ever. But if you're not one of the alleged 70,000 people driving in to, dress up like the rainbow and the Skittles, and I don't know what everybody does. I'm a curmudgeon, so, we leave that to people running wild and free. But what does that say about the 1.1 people that don't agree with it? That you have, and again, from the tolerance point of view, you have one group saying, this is our time, this is our space, it's about our issue. But in America, aren't we supposed to leave room for everyone? So if we're all about tolerance, at 580-5436, 580-KIDO, shouldn't we have straight people invited to this? Shouldn't it be I can't remember it now. Let me get to traffic, and then we'll come back with the letters. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Let's get you to work safely and on time. Good morning, Dave. Now, since we're calling on inclusiveness and tolerance coming up, well, shouldn't this be LGBTQ plus week? Straight, and then you add everything else in. Wouldn't that truly be inclusionary? Right? Think about that at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. That's coming up. And one of the things that we do to distinguish ourselves from everyone is, not everybody else is going to say that, but they believe it. So if we're truly talking about bringing everybody together, and for some reason, that Whitney Houston Chaka Khan song, I'm Every Woman, goes on in my head, or what is it, the Weatherman, Rayamaya, It's Raining Men, that kind of thing, goes on when I talk about this. And maybe that's just my own biases emerging here on the air. But if you're really wanting to bring everybody together, why not invite the straight people? And would you go if invited? Instead of LGBTQ plus, why don't you throw in the S? Coming up next, why Idaho is the most tolerant state ever. Glad you're with us. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio.